What is going on, YouTube? Coming back today with actually a new camera angle. I'm deciding to try out a new camera and using one different from my computer, since this one has a little bit better microphone and just a little bit better quality. So coming back today with my NFL QB rankings. So I'm starting my NFL ranking series today. It is something that I've been wanting to get at for about a week now. And if you watched my any of my NCAA tournament videos yesterday, you saw that I said I was going to be doing this today anyway. So here we are. Start with my 3 outside. I'm going to be doing my top 10 and then the 3 outside. So first one is the Atlanta Falcons, Matt Ryan. So Matt Ryan entered the league in 2008. I'm pretty sure most of y'all are familiar with him. Matty Ice has had an up and down career with the Falcons. Been through, I believe, 2 head coaches now. And had an okay season this past season. Atlanta wasn't, I don't believe they were able to make the playoffs. Matt Ryan was able to throw for 4,591 yards, which is good for, I believe, one of the best in the NFL. Yeah, 5th best in the NFL. But his 16 interceptions to only 21 touchdowns was one of the worst ratios in the NFL as well. I believe when you're talking about all 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL, Matt Ryan was, I believe, 19th in QBR. I'd have to go back and look that stat for sure, though. Anyway, my number 2 quarterback on 3 outside is Tony Romo. So the Dallas Cowboys quarterback had a rough season with injuries, and this isn't, now before I go any further, I want to clarify that these rankings are tailored toward right now with the mindset of heading into the 2016 NFL season. So obviously I'm not counting quarterbacks that will be drafted this year. I'm counting quarterbacks that are in, or what situation they're in right now, how good they played last year, and then what their projection is for this upcoming season, how they should be able to fare. So Tony Romo, again, broken collarbone, has to go through surgery. It was just a rough season in general for him. I believe only got to play like 4 or 5 games this year, and led to a Dallas Cowboys 4-12 season. Not too much to say about his season, just should be back healthy again next year, hopefully after the surgery, and should be good to go. Anyway, my number 1 on the 3 outside, also the 3 outside, they're not in any order, they're just the 3 quarterbacks that just missed the cut. So that is Eli Manning. So Eli Manning actually had a very respectable season, put up for around 4,400 yards passing, 35 touchdowns, to 14 interceptions. So closer to the top of the league with interceptions, but overall pretty good season for Eli Manning. Definitely one of the, in my opinion, definitely one of the top 13 quarterbacks, probably top 12. I'd say if there was number 1 on here, it probably would be Eli Manning. Like I said, put up a respectable season last year, brings back a few weapons to the 2016 season, and obviously most notably Odell Beckham Jr. See if they can actually find a running back long term. There's been talks about them taking Ezekiel Elliott in the draft, or maybe if Derrick Henry's available in the 2nd round. Anyway, move into my top 10. At number 10, I've got the youngster for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and that's Blake Bortles. So Bortles had a very good season this past year. He was able to put up, I believe, over 4,000 yards passing. Yes, 4,428 yards passing, 35 touchdowns. But he did have, I believe, a league-leading 18 interceptions. Yes. Now, he did turn the ball over a lot, but the thing about Blake Bortles was he was able to put up points. He was also able to get 310 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns on the ground. So he's a dual-threat quarterback, one of the better running quarterbacks on this list, and definitely a bright future for Jacksonville if Blake Bortles continues to develop along with TJ Yeldon and some of the players along that defense. He's got a lot of weapons at receiver. He's got Allen Hurns, Allen Robinson, 2 guys that were able to come through in big ways last year. And again, team that should be getting better going into the future with so much young talent. So at number 9, I've got the San Diego Chargers quarterback, Phillip Rivers. So Phillip Rivers had a very good season this past year, and was able to put up over 4,700 yards passing, almost 4,800, 29 touchdowns to 13 interceptions. and he really did it with nothing around him. Danny Woodhead was a good weapon coming out of the backfield, but he had to deal with a very inconsistent wide receiving core, one that had a very injured Eddie Royal for most of the season. Antonio Gates is getting older. Malcolm Floyd just retired, so that's giving you an idea of what the San Diego Chargers wide receiving core is looking like at this current moment. So it just goes to show how good Philip Rivers has been playing, and he's been doing it for so long now. This is a Chargers team that I feel like can be dangerous. It's a team that does have weapons that a lot of people don't respect, I think. Like, along the defense, they've got guys like Manti Te'o. They've got on the offense Melvin Gordon, who I think can develop well. I think Danny Woodhead will be serviceable for another couple of years. And if Philip Rivers keeps doing his thing, Chargers are able to put together at least a decent draft this year, pick up a few weapons from free agency, then this is a team that could be very, very, very dangerous in the upcoming years as long as Philip Rivers can stay consistent. At number 8, I've got the New Orleans Saints quarterback Drew Brees. So Brees was able to put up another respectable season, almost 4,900 yards passing, not able to eclipse 5,000 this year. But through 32 touchdowns to only 11 interceptions, was able to notch a rushing touchdown as well. Now, the Saints are going through quite a few changes this offseason. They released longtime mainstay wide receiver Marcus Colston, who has been Drew Brees' main weapon with the Saints. Obviously, they got rid of Jimmy Graham last year. This is a team that has a running back in Mark Ingram that actually had a pretty big breakout season this year after really, posting his name up as a starter in 2014, and really took that job and ran with it this year. This is a Saints team that I think needs to find obviously another number one wide receiver. I had them taking Laquan Treadwell in my last mock draft. I could see that happening, but they do have a whole host of needs along the defense. Sean Payton coming back another year to lead the Saints in what is an improving NFC South. Obviously the Panthers, best team in the NFC. You got a Buccaneers team that's got a lot of young talent and developing quickly, and you've got a Falcons team that still has a lot of talent left on that team with a young and developing defense. So I think that it's not going to get any easier for Drew Brees. I think that the Saints do need to go up and need to at least find one or two good wide receivers, at least in either free agency or the draft. And I think that Mark Ingram needs to stay consistent for this team to be good heading into the future. Now at and I didn't mean to mention they did pick up Coby Fleener, so that's another weapon at tight end for Drew Brees. So at number 7, I've got the Indianapolis Colts quarterback Andrew Luck. So Andrew Luck missed most of 2015 with quite a few injuries actually. Ribs, shoulder, I believe were the most notable ones. And the big concern for Andrew Luck heading into the future is just obviously his health with the mediocrity of the Colts offensive line. Andrew Luck this year still, again, turned the ball over quite a bit. 15 touchdowns to 12 interceptions when he was actually playing. But the thing is, he's just, when he's there, the Colts are going. Every season he's been healthy, the Colts have made the playoffs, including a AFC Conference Championship berth 2 years ago. And the Colts do bring back quite a few weapons. I mean, they still got Dante Moncrief, T.Y. Hilton. They re-signed Dwayne Allen this offseason. Still have Frank Gore. See what happens with their running back situation. Looks like they might be trying to pick up someone new heading into the future. And they did release Andre Johnson, so that might free up a little bit of space there. Anyway, move on to number 6, and I have the Arizona Cardinals, Carson Palmer. So Carson Palmer was able to put up an extremely solid season this year en route to MVP talks at one point, leading the Cardinals all the way to the NFC Championship. And he was able to put up, in my opinion, one of his best seasons in his career. He's been a very underrated quarterback throughout his career, mainly just because his inability to get out of the play. I don't know how to phrase that. His inability to win a Super Bowl is what I'm trying to get at. And basically, if Carson Palmer can win a Super Bowl within the next few years, I think that stamps him as one of the better quarterbacks of this generation. I think he already is. Again, I think he's extremely underrated. But last year he was able to put up over 4,600 yards, 35 touchdowns to only 11 interceptions. So a very respectable year statistically, including adding a rushing touchdown. excuse me. So he has a lot of weapons coming back on this Arizona Cardinals team. Larry Fitzgerald had kind of a resurgent year this past year, along with Michael Floyd and John Brown breaking out as well. They re-signed Chris Johnson. They have David Johnson coming back, who looks like a very promising running back. And Carson Palmer, I think, is a guy that still has a few good years left as long as he can stay healthy. That's been one of the biggest knocks against him during his career, especially in Arizona. So at number 5, I've got the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback Ben Roethlisberger. So Big Ben didn't put up the greatest stats in the regular season, but he was able to lead his team to second round of the playoffs with almost no weapons there. He was missing Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell for quite a bit of the season, and Big Ben just seems like year in and year out is able to lead Pittsburgh to the playoffs and at least put together semi-successful seasons with very little to work with. The Pittsburgh Steelers defense is definitely not the same that it used to be, and I think really the only thing keeping this team going, the only things keeping this team going are Antonio Brown, Ben Roethlisberger, and Le'Veon Bell. Martavis Bryant is suspended for the season, so that will hurt. Heath Miller retired, that will hurt it as well. But I don't think the Steelers are going to have any problem replacing weapons at wide receiver. They still do have the best wide receiver in the NFL. And honestly, one of the better running backs in the NFL with Le'Veon Bell to open up even more room for Big Ben. Last year, he didn't even put up 4,000 yards passing, 21 touchdowns to 16 interceptions. But like I said, this is still a guy that's one of the elite quarterbacks in football. He's one of the best. He's one of the few that can get it done in the playoffs and get it done when it's crunch time. One of the most clutch quarterbacks there is in the league right now. So at number 4, I had the Seattle Seahawks, Russell Wilson. So Russell Wilson has definitely become one of the elite quarterbacks in the NFL, already adding a Super Bowl to his resume. This is a guy that's one of the better dual threat quarterbacks, had over 500 yards rushing and 1 touchdown. I believe he led, might have been second among quarterbacks in rushing yards. Second or third. I think he was either behind just Cam Newton or behind Cam Newton and Tyrod Taylor. Anyway, this is a guy that, like I said, has put together an extremely solid career so far. He's been extremely efficient. One of the few quarterbacks with single-digit interceptions this year, over 4,000 yards passing, like I said, over 500 yards rushing to 34 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. I don't see him regressing any bit this coming year. Seattle was able to, I think they will be able to add some weapons at wide receiver. Doug Baldwin has become one of the better wide receivers in the NFL. They still have Jimmy Graham going. Marshawn Lynch did retire, but Thomas Rawls does look like the real deal in the backfield, so he definitely does have weapons to work with. Now, the Seahawks defense looks like it might be gutted a little bit this offseason. Cam Chancellor's definitely on the trading block. See what happens there. He's obviously one of the bigger parts of that Seattle defense. Honestly, I think if the Seattle defense gets worse, then that can help out Russell Wilson's stats quite a bit. That'll mean that they need to come from behind a little bit more, throw the ball a little bit more, and see what happens when when the onus is really put on Russell Wilson's shoulder to get things done for the Seahawks. So at number 3, I've got the New England Patriots, Tom Brady. So coming off a Super Bowl championship, Tom Brady had another fantastic season. Looked like the motivated quarterback everyone thought he was going to be after the whole Deflategate thing, winning the appeal and not being suspended for 4 games. Again, single-digit interceptions, extremely efficient this year, 36 touchdowns, 4,770 yards passing, and 3 rushing touchdowns. So 39 total touchdowns, and I believe the second to Cam Newton in MVP voting, but there was actually quite a gap between those two. So, like I said, Tom Brady said looks like he's willing to play up until his 40s. I mean, probably got 2-3 good elite years left, and looks like there's no signs of slowing down for him in New England. Able to make some New England's receivers look really good this year. Gronk, best tight end in the NFL by far. Julian Edelman has developed into one of the better wide receivers in the NFL also. Danny Amendola also showed spurts this year of why New England signed him in the first place. So at number 2, I've got the Green Bay Packers' Aaron Rodgers. So statistically, wasn't Aaron Rodgers' best year. 344 yards rushing, 1 touchdown. Still was efficient, 31 touchdowns to only 8 interceptions, but 3,821 yards passing. Now, it's hard to say that Aaron Rodgers is not, I mean, it's almost impossible to say that Aaron Rodgers isn't one of the 3 best quarterbacks in the NFL. He has been for the last couple of years. He's a reigning NFL MVP. He's won a Super Bowl. It just shows year in and year out why he's one of the best quarterbacks. I believe 3 Hail Marys in the last second to win games this year. And, well, I guess 2 and then the Cardinals game. But anyway, just has some unreal throws. He's led Green Bay to be a championship contender year in and year out. They're always in the talk of Super Bowl contention just because of Aaron Rodgers. Now, he'll get helped out a little bit with Jordy Nelson being able to come back healthy this coming year, Randall Cobb coming back, and hopefully Eddie Lacy that's actually in shape this year. So, move on to my number 1 quarterback, and at this point it's pretty obvious. I have the reigning NFL MVP, and that is Cam Newton. So, Cam Newton this past year was able to have really what was an unbelievable season. The talent's always been there for Newton. People were just waiting for it to shine through. Now, Newton had a really good season, 10 rushing touchdowns, 636 rushing yards, good for the lead in the NFL for quarterbacks, and was able to put up over 3,800 yards passing, 35 touchdowns to only 10 interceptions, leading the Panthers to a 15-win season and the Super Bowl. Now, Cam Newton this is a Panthers team, I believe, that's made the playoffs 2 or 3 years straight. Cam Newton has led them to having extremely successful seasons these past few years, compared to 2-3 years ago. Actually, I believe it was 2 years ago where people were talking about if Newton wasn't able to do anything with the Panthers within the next year or 2, they were talking about like benching him, releasing him, having to look in a new direction for quarterback, and he's definitely shut all those critics up with his performance this past year. Doesn't look like the Panthers will be losing anything either. They should be returning Jonathan Stewart. Cam Artis-Payne was a very solid running back this year for the Panthers. What seemed like an extremely thin receiving core actually played pretty well. You get Kelvin Benjamin back this coming year, which should help out even more. Devin Funchess emerged at times. Greg Olsen was also one of the best tight ends in the NFL. He's coming back as well. And I don't think they're really going to be losing any key pieces on defense. Looks like they're going to re-sign Josh Norman, Luke Kuechly, obviously coming back, Thomas Davis. A lot of key pieces to that Panthers defense. So that concludes my NFL quarterback rankings. We'll be coming back tomorrow with my running backs and continue the series after that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If you guys liked the new intro that I actually just put in, I believe it's been on 2 videos now. Should be coming up with a new outro soon, and I believe I put up a new YouTube art, so trying to reshape my channel a little bit, make it a little bit more organized and better looking. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, with the top 50. But today, like I said, I wanted to do my centers video. So yesterday I did my power fours. You have not checked that one out, go check that out. The link will be in the description below as well as in the outro. So go ahead and start with my number 10